The Dolor Factor is sponsored by Ladera, a romantic paradise. Lime, value every moment. Illuminous, your transformation begins here. Inside Out, everything for your home, inside and out. And supported by the Cultural Development Foundation, Creativity, Culture, Community.
On this episode of The Dolor Factor, we'll be discussing traditions, old wives' tales and superstitions that are associated with wedding day celebrations and activities around the world. Why does the groom carry the bride across the threshold? Why is it good luck to find a spider on your wedding dress, but bad luck if a nun or a monk cross the bride's path on her way to the wedding? What is the meaning behind the ringing bells? What is the purpose of breaking glass as part of the ceremony? Is it good or bad to cry at your wedding? What does it mean if it rains on your wedding day? Why is receiving knives as a wedding gift bad unless you give the giver a penny? Is it really bad luck to see your future spouse the night before the wedding? And why do brides wear a veil? What a lot of stress. I think, stay with the Dolor Factor to learn the details surrounding these superstitions and more that are all part of that most special day of all, your wedding day. Hello, I'm Delia Dolor. Welcome to the Dolor Factor. We've all heard the rhyme, something borrowed, something blue, something old, and something new. This is an old saying that is supposed to be adhered to by any bride who is about to get married. But what does it mean? Well, here are some answers. The wearing of the something old represents the bride's past, while the something new represents the couple's happily ever after. The something borrowed is something that the bride borrows from someone who is happily married with the idea that some of that person's happiness and good fortune will be passed on to her. And the something blue denotes fidelity and love. Joining me to discuss the traditions, old wives' tales and superstitions and other stories surrounding wedding day celebrations is Nurcia Paul. Nurcia is the owner of Something Borrowed Bridals here in St. Lucia, and she has an interesting story behind her starting her business. Welcome to the Dolor Factor.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's so nice to actually see you here with me because we've been out earlier this week sampling some delicious things, and we're going to tell everyone about it a bit later. But before we get into our topic and before we start with Delia's Spotlight, some news from the Rotary Calabashes. Many of you enjoyed the show recorded at the Ladera Resort in Soufrière with Rotary President Chester Hinkson and Rotarian Malcolm Charles. And what we would like to do is update you. The President advises the Rotary Calabashes regrets to advise of the postponement of its concert that was scheduled for Friday, November the 27th at the Gaiety Club. This unfortunate change is occasioned by the unavailability of the venue, which has experienced a breakdown of crucial equipment that will take some time before it can be repaired. As soon as an update of progress on these repairs is made known, they will advise the public and sponsors of the new date. Meanwhile, the Rotary Calabashes actually regret any inconvenience caused and thanks sponsors and fans for your understanding and support. Now, back to Spotlight. This is a regular feature on the Dolor Factor where we discuss current events and other hot topics that are making waves on social media and creating conversation around the water cooler. And of course, we encourage you, our loyal viewers, to send in ideas for topics that we might feature in this segment. Just send us an email. Be sure to include any links to the stories, photos and or videos that you want us to share and send them to us at thedolorfactor@choice39.tv. If we use your suggestion, you will receive a Vestige 758 t-shirt as a bonus for your participation. Now, before I actually show you the week's spotlight items, Nurcia, you need to help me with this, okay?
Okay.
Good. Now, Nurcia hasn't seen anything before, all right? Now, what we're going to be doing is, people who follow the show, people who follow the Dolor Factor Facebook page, will know that I've been to Marrakesh. Hence, here we go, with a nice little Marrakesh robe for you. And what we want to do is show you a couple of the pictures from Marrakesh. It was just amazing. I just felt that I needed to share some of that with you. And people were actually saying to me, they couldn't believe that I was loading things on. In fact, the internet was really working so quickly. And we actually managed to stay in some beautiful, beautiful places. And some of them looked, I wouldn't say so much like St. Lucia, but I just felt that I was in some form of home. So here we are. Here's the Four Seasons in Marrakesh, a really beautiful place. And well, with the Four Seasons, I mean, everyone knows it's a really, really wonderful hotel chain. And I want to thank Felix, who was really wonderful, and Charles, who made everything so perfect for us. Here I am at the lobby. Isn't that just a wonderful little, this is the lobby of the Four Seasons Resort. Just sitting there. Now, this is actually a Berber tent. We actually stayed at Sir Richard Branson's resort called Casbah Tamadon, and that's one of the tents that we stayed in. It's just amazing, isn't it? An outdoor tent, yes. Yeah. And this is one of the managers at the Casbah Tamadon. He was actually the Casbah Taramont, who was actually there. And that was the swimming pool area. And if you look in the background, you'll see there's green, which is actually the desert, and there's white, which is actually the mountains with snow on it. So you're seeing hot and cold at the same time. Just amazing. There I am, actually in another hotel called La Mamounia, and they actually gave me Sir Winston Churchill's suite. And there I am standing next to Sir Winston. And this is a suite he used to use when he was in Marrakesh, where he wrote lots of his stuff, and he was there shortly before he passed away. So it was just really nice to actually be there. So there's a little taste of Morocco there. Now, our second spotlight item is something special. Now, to the others, to you viewers, I want you to figure out, can you remember this hit? Now, a lot of people say to me, every time I show them something, it's like, where did you get that from? And I said, well, you know, that's back in the day.
Back in the day, right.
You know, and it's not just back in the day in St. Lucia. There's back in the, you know, so many people live here, not just St. Lucians.
It's true,
so
yes.
Those who are not St. Lucian, those who are St. Lucian may think, oh, I'm not sure about that one. But those who aren't St. Lucian, who've been abroad,
right.
they go, oh my gosh, I haven't heard something like this in ages. And they always
it's like
pat me on the back when they see me.
Yes.
Oh, that really brought back some memories. So we will go through that a little later on. So let's just move on. We have a giveaway for this week's program. Now, our newest sponsor is Rituals, and you know they offer more than just coffee. As some of you are aware, Ritual Sushi is a sushi restaurant that is open every day of the week. And what they do is, of course, you know, they actually working to debunk the myth that a sushi restaurant is all about just eating raw food. It's not about eating raw fish, and in doing so, they offer a variety of hot dishes, great appetizers, fully cooked sushi rolls, in addition to the traditional raw sushi. Now, I want to just I had to bring some of this because you had some stuff there, didn't you?
I did, yes.
I had the carne salad. And it has crab, carrots, lettuce, cucumber, and Japanese mayo. But there were loads of things. You could have a house salad. You could have a spring roll. You could have spicy calamari. Those were to start. And then for the main, I actually had surf and turf. But there were also summer rolls. Now, there's a reason why I'm saying all this. So just listen, okay? Surf and turf, a volcano roll, Rituals, rock and roll. We had that. And you, what did you have, Nurcia?
I actually had the grilled salmon.
Okay.
I stayed safe because I'm new to sushi, so I wanted to stay safe with the grilled salmon.
What did you think of it?
It was really nice. It was really nice. I enjoyed it. And
well, you can see she has all those that food in front of her. And then Chrisanne standing next to Chrisanne's just a wonderful lady. She ate all that. For someone who said she didn't have, she doesn't eat these. She
right. But it was lovely. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
It was good. Now, here's the question for this week's giveaway. It's a two-part question, and if you answer correctly, you will win an appetizer and a sushi roll of your choice for you and a guest. The question: what was the first location of Rituals Sushi, and name any two items on the Rituals Sushi menu? So I'll repeat the question. What was the first location of Rituals Sushi, and name any 2 items on the Rituals Sushi menu? Send your answers to us at the Dolor Factor at choice39.tv for your chance to win, and we will announce the winners on next week's program. So what we'll do as well is that question will be posted on our Facebook page in case you forget. Now, another Dolor Factor sponsor has some exciting news. Inside Out is having a store-wide sale this weekend, and RBTT will be on hand to process loans for customers on the spot. Inside Out will be offering discounts of up to 20% off the purchase price on all of their quality furnishing for the weekend. So for more information on this great sale, check our Facebook page. Inside Out provides the furniture for the Dolor Factor set. If you don't know that, you should know that. All right, so it's actually time now for us to take a break. And when we return, we will discuss the topic wedding bells with Nurcia Paul. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Dolor Factor is sponsored by Delia, a romantic paradise. Lime, value every moment. Illuminous, your transformation begins here. Inside Out, everything for your home, inside and out. And supported by the Cultural Development Foundation, Creativity, Culture, Community.
Welcome back to the Dolor Factor on Choice TV and Caravision. Our topic for this program is wedding bells. Nurcia Paul is the owner and founder of Something Borrowed Bridal in St. Lucia. Nurcia, can you tell our viewers a little about yourself and how you actually started your business?
I started the business because I identified that there was a need for that kind of business. I worked with cable and wireless for about 10 years, and my job was made redundant, and I started thinking about a business venture to go into. Now, before that, my very first job was as a photographer, and I worked at the hotels and I did weddings and so on. And I left that when I started working with cable and wireless, or Lime. And when I decided to go into business, and I chose going into weddings because I thought there really was a need for a lounge and a space that brides could go in and have a wonderful experience with their wedding party or their family, and we just didn't have that, hence the reason for Something Borrowed.
Okay. Now, you say that you had these ideas, but how easy or difficult was it to actually get it started?
It took, I think I was very convinced that I wanted to do it. I did quite a bit of market research to see the validity of my idea, and I found out that a lot of people were willing to engage in that kind of a business, or they would enjoy it. But I think the biggest thing for me was hoping it would work. I think with anybody who's starting a new business, you have that kind of fear that it may not work. And so I was sure that I wanted to go into it. I had the finances to do it. But what really kept me up was, okay, is it really going to work? Because people say they'll come, they'll buy, they'll rent, and then you just don't see them. So apart from that, I was pretty okay going into it.
But it could be because you've actually said you had the finances. A lot of people want to start new businesses and they're very good at what they do, but because they don't have the financial backing, or they're afraid to go to a bank because they're not sure whether they have a business plan, or they have something, they're just not sure how to start.
Yeah.
It kind of draws them back.
Absolutely.
Did you feel at any time that you were fortunate?
In a way, because I took a risk, I should say. When the company let me go from Lime, I had my package for working there for the 10 years.
Right.
So I pretty much decided that I would use that money to put into my business. So I actually didn't have to go the route of everybody else and go into a bank and borrow money, because that's when I think it gets even more nerve-wracking, right? So I decided that if I'm going into it, I know I'm the only one losing, really, and I was prepared to take that risk. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to weddings, do you find that the people who come to you, that are they in love with the motion of getting married, or are they really into the whole seriousness of getting married?
The majority of my brides are excited about their wedding day. And there have been times when I've had to sit a few down. I mean, I'm no counselor or psychiatrist, but I've had to sit a few people down and say to them and advise them a little bit and say, you know, after the wedding, there's your marriage. Right? And the biggest concern should be your marriage, because we're planning a beautiful day. Yes, we want to have the lovely things that a wedding day would provide, or you could enjoy from a wedding day. But what's going to follow after that wedding day? Are you going to be in debt after your wedding day? Is you as a couple, are you all going to start your marriage in debt? You know, are you going to be satisfied with the amount of money that you're spending? Are you going to be satisfied with all the things that you've bought for that wedding and it's just sitting on your shelf?
You have those kind of conversations with
Yes,
people?
I do, because I created my business not just to make money, but really to help folks. I got married and I planned my wedding, and I was looking for certain options that we did not have available. And I know there are so many people who want to get married, but they think it's an expensive venture and there's so much going on that they have to concentrate on. But sometimes you just have to sit with people and share your own experiences and let them know the other options that they have. And yes, I do have these conversations.
Well, I don't know. I have a different view in all of this. I don't understand why people want to spend all this money on weddings. Because at the end of the day, isn't it just for the two of you? Getting married is between you and the person you're getting married to. Why have you got to buy your dress, buy the dress for your maid of honor or your bridesmaid? I'm sorry, I don't want to put you out of business here, but then the groom is going to spend a whole heap of money. Then and you have to buy expensive rings, because if you choose a ring that you like, you're bothered. Well, someone will say, how much was your ring?
Right.
And all those kind of things. So you end up spending all this money, and I just feel that why don't we spend that money and put it in your house?
I think a lot
of people are still renting. Why don't you save that money for a deposit, or if one of you have a house or whatever, put it towards your mortgage or put it towards your savings, because weddings are very expensive. Now I say that, and then the St. Lucia tourist board will be saying, "Oh my gosh, what is she saying?" You know. But I just feel that the way that weddings are changing now, we should be doing things for ourselves, what suits us, not what suits my friend, my family, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, your parents
society
friends. Thinks, the neighbors. You know, who is this for?
And I absolutely agree with you. And these are some of the conversations that I have with my brides, you know. But unfortunately, weddings are still, you know, there's a saying that your wedding is for your family and your marriage is for the couple. There's that saying, and in a lot of cultures and countries, it's true. People still think that they have to spend a lot of money on their wedding and then they'll take care of the marriage of the two of them, because the wedding is really for their family and their friends to have a good time. Now, I absolutely agree. The reason we created Something Borrowed is that you can still have a wedding without having all the fuss of spending a lot, because you cut down on a lot when you rent items instead of purchasing them. And if you're able to afford, you know, buying everything you want, you can still do that. But at least we were able to give the option so that we can get on the side you're talking about of making the fuss about something else and not just that day.
Well, I think that you're in a great position, because, you know, you rent out your gowns, and I think just rent out everything. You can give them back, and it's cheaper anyway.
Yeah,
save the money.
Really is.
Save the money. I know people might be thinking, Delia, you're crazy. You know, but why spend thousands of dollars on a dress that you're only going to wear once?
Yeah.
And I think that that's what prevents some men from proposing, because they're worried, how much money is this going to cost me? In we've got some of your gowns here. Maybe you can tell us some of the situations. Where was this?
So this was, we had a bridal showcase in January of this year at the Bay Gardens Hotel, and we were able to feature a bunch of our gowns. We actually had about 18 models, and we featured gowns from size 0 to size 24.
That. I was looking at that and I was thinking,
yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful, different sizes.
Yes.
That's a lovely gown.
Thank you. And and it's also not just the size of the gowns, but the styles. Because you know you're on an island and you need gowns for the beach or for the church or for the garden. So it's a variety as well. So that was a showcase we had, and we were able to show off all of that.
Wow, that looks really wonderful. And I learned something actually going to see you. But I don't know, sometimes we just take certain things for granted. I always wondered, how do the brides get the dresses on, you know? And I'm thinking, I'm imagining them putting their hands up, and you see all these, fancy ways of putting them in. But all you do is just basically step into it, and someone's there to help you. So it's like really wonderful. But when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about or answer some of the questions that I asked you at the top of the show. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're talking about wedding traditions and superstitions. Here are the two, in fact, I was going to give the question again, but no, I'm not going to give the question again. I'm actually going to give you some answers from some of the superstitions that I mentioned at the top of the show. First, wearing a veil. This custom, now I'm saying this, and I bet you a lot of people don't know why they have to wear a veil. They just wear the veil because tradition said wear the veil. Anyway, this custom originated in ancient Rome when a bride would wear a veil down the aisle to disguise herself from evil spirits who were jealous of her happiness. Now, I've seen in movies that that's how they do to transfer the bride. So if a father wants to get rid of the ugly daughter, he shows the man the beautiful daughter, and then he puts the ugly daughter and then puts the veil over her face, and it's only afterwards. Afterwards, when you say "I do" and you lift the veil, you think, "Oh my gosh!" But then it's too late. And the one about seeing each other before the wedding. Well, this superstition dates back to the times of arranged marriages, when people believed that if the couple saw each other before the ceremony, it would give them a chance to change their minds about the weddings.
That's funny.
Yeah, but I mean, now I think people want to stay with them. I mean, I think that I would want to stay. I wouldn't want to be going separate places. But,
no. People have their freedom of thought, so I don't know.
Have you heard of any superstitions or anything?
Yes. Let me see. Carrying over the threshold is one of them that I never really thought about. And then when I did some research, I found out that it was because, one of them, which I found was funny. One was that back in the day, persons didn't want to feel like the bride was too anxious to get into bed. So instead of walking to the threshold, they would have the groom carry the bride, so it looked more, I guess, innocent or respectable. Then there was the other one that...
In those days, it was just like a whole set of hypocrites.
I agree.
Yeah, because in those days, a lot of people didn't even wash properly. They didn't have much water and all those kind of things.
I mean, there was a lot not going for people back in the day, and they had the most traditions, and and a lot of the time, people expect you to stick to traditions right now, like wearing a garter and things like that. But even wearing a garter has become very raunchy at weddings. I mean, have you seen the ways people go on the dresses to take a garter out and do? I don't even know why that happens though.
I have seen, so I'm not really a lover of YouTube, but I've been looking at some of the things, and some of the things that people actually do, and they know the camera is on them.
That's why there's so much reality TV, because people love the camera.
They do some crazy things. But I remember a long time ago, I think when I was growing up and we'd come over to St. Lucia, I used to hear some kind of things that the old people used to say to them about, service your husband well.
And you're like, likewise.
But you say that, but when you ask them, what do you mean? They'll just say, just do it.
Yes, and people don't, the older folks, they don't like to talk outright about what they mean. It's like more of a read between the lines. It's almost a no-no to say it out loud what people mean. I remember when I was buying my wedding dress, I felt so uncomfortable because I was raised with my grandmother, and I just knew that I would be wearing a strapless dress. I just knew it. And I just knew my grandmother would have something to say about me wearing a strapless dress. And lo and behold, I bought the dress and I came home and that's before Something Borrowed was in existence. So I didn't have the option to rent a dress. So I bought a dress and I came in and I put it on for her. And I felt so beautiful. And the lady looks at me and she says, in Creole, she says, "So you're getting married bareback?" And do you know, she told me that she had never in her life, she was 86 when she died, she had never in her life worn a strapless dress ever.
I'm not surprised at that because,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I would even think twice about it. I think it looks really beautiful on some people.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's because of, you know, my background, but because I think I'm a quite fashionable person. But for me to get married and have all my shoulders out,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, for me, I got married in a garden. It was out in a garden, and I thought there really was nothing to it. You know, it was only my shoulders that were out. But clearly, she had her own thoughts, and she needed it to be said, so she said it.
But why are weddings so important to people in terms of having the large wedding? Why is it so important?
I don't know. I think a lot of it is based on what people see. You know, I think people genuinely, there are people who genuinely want to include all of their families and friends in their weddings. But you know, you have to remind yourself that you can only afford so much, right? Other people, there are people who are influenced just by what society expects, you know. You know, there are areas in the maybe not in the immediate caste trees, but outside. I've had brides who said they are a little nervous that people will just come into the church. Like, you know, not people they invite, but people who are just in the community. They know they're getting married and they'll just come to the church and then just come to the party. So it's almost like people feel pressured that they have to have enough drinks, enough this, enough that to be able to accommodate everybody.
But
so I think it's a very...
I've seen like weddings in my family, like, you know, my siblings, and I feel as if they don't really enjoy the day because they are actually trying to make sure that everybody else is happy.
Yeah.
Or where's auntie so-and-so? Where's uncle so-and-so? And then you've got, you know, the mum and dad saying, fix up your dress or fix up your hair. And, you know, you don't really enjoy it.
As a wedding photographer, eons of years ago, I asked my couples, like afterwards, after we did the wedding, I would ask, you know, how was your wedding night? And they'd be like, our what? You know, because the majority, 90% of those people would tell me they just fell asleep. They never even spent any time with each other that night. And it's true. My wedding night was the same thing. We didn't have a big wedding, but at the end I was really exhausted, so we just fell asleep, you know. And for true, during the wedding I was concerned about my grandmother having a seat, you know, like a chair, so that she could see everything that was happening. So I was all over the place looking. In my video I could see me looking at, you know, what's going on. So it's true, people are very pressured about community and family and what people expect as opposed to what really they should be doing as a couple.
I think what worries me as well is that how come that people always enter marriage and weddings seemingly in love.
Yeah.
And what worries me is that a lot of people are planning to get married, doing all these big lavish weddings, and they're not truly in love. They're just in love.
You're opening a can of worms there, you know.
They're just in love with the prospect of being married.
Yeah.
It's just like some people who say they love someone and the person is not even treating them as they should if you really love them. But they're in love of the philosophy and the idea that they are in love.
Yeah. I said to somebody very recently, I said to them, when you're planning your wedding, it was a very young bride, and she actually asked me, she said, do you think I'm getting married too young? And I said to her, do you want honest or nice? You know, and she said honest. And I said, I think your 20s is the time where you should really just live and have, you know, achieve your goals in your career and all of that. And then learn your fiancé or your mate, and then when you feel that you're more mature, you can make that decision, you know, because you have to live with that person for the rest of your life. And if you're marrying him at this very young age, you have to know that this person is going to be here for 60, 80 years.
That's you know? Dangerous.
So she asked and she wanted to be honest.
Oh my gosh. In fact, I'm surprised that you said that, because I wouldn't have thought you would say something like that.
I give honest when I'm asked. Yeah.
Well, I don't see anything wrong if you think that the person is the one for you, then I don't think age matters. What do you think? When we come back, most probably we will open the lines and maybe you'll have your say. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're discussing wedding traditions and superstitions. Here are two more of those superstitions I mentioned earlier. Rain on your wedding day. Do you know about that one?
I've heard about it.
You heard about it. Okay, rain on your wedding day. In some cultures, rain on your wedding day symbolizes fertility and cleansing. Apparently, this began when a couple's wedding was interrupted by a torrential downpour. And then exactly 9 months to the day of the wedding, their daughter was born.
Just takes one.
So that's what everyone's doing. Everyone's like, oh, but they don't know the reason why. That's the reason. As for the advice that it's not wise to give a wedding couple knives as wedding gifts, well, according to ancient folklore, a knife signifies a broken relationship and it's bad luck to give as a wedding gift. If knives are on your registry, just give the gift giver a penny. And that way, it's actually a purchase and not a gift. So you can avoid this potential curse.
We have a lot of time, I think, to think of these things. And my goodness.
But you see, I think when you talk about things like that, it's just typical life where people say to you, do this, do that, but they don't tell you why.
Yeah.
You know, especially when it comes to the older folk, they'll just say, you must do this, you must do that. I'm telling you this, you know, but they don't tell you why. But what I found interesting was when we started to talk about, you know, the reasons why people get married or they want to get married. But I find that so many people seem to be so much in love, but yet the divorce rates are just climbing and climbing and climbing. And when you figure out or you think why, they say people change. I don't think that it's all a case of people change. I think it's because you shouldn't have got married in the first place, because you didn't love each other enough in the first place. The reasons why, call me naive or call me stupid, that if someone thinks that they are so much in love that they're going to get married, you should see the signs that something is going wrong and you should be able to communicate with your partner.
Yeah, and you've said something very important, seeing the signs and communicating. We as humans, we're very good at ignoring things that we don't want to see, especially if it's going to put a dent in our own plans. You know, I plan to be married to this person. You know, if children are involved, people make excuses that they want to stay together for their children, so they'll marry this person even though they see this or that. And people don't communicate as they should too. You know, a lot of people don't even know what's going on in their own relationship, or they're too afraid to have the conversation to, you know, to get it out there. So you have a good point.
Oh, well, let's see if there's anyone else out there who thinks that my points are valid or not, or you think, Delia, you're just out of this, really. You know,
you're just killing
you're not making
weddings.
any sense here, and that weddings are wonderful and so on and so forth. So I'm interested to know what your thoughts are on weddings or on superstitions, or maybe some wonderful things that have happened to you. How do you think that, because I said earlier about people not being, I don't think people are in love enough, but sometimes people get married because they feel that that will secure that person to them, especially if they've gone through a really terrible time and the person promises them things will be better, and they say something like, well, okay, why don't we get married, or we've been together for such a long time, don't you think it's time we got married? So they do all of that, and it's, to me, it's just false happiness. It's temporarily feeling really happy because you're finally going to get your
you want,
gown or your tuxedo, and you know, that kind of thing. Now, am I terrible to even think that way?
Well, the brides out there think you're terrible. No, I don't think so. I think you're realistic. And that's what I think a lot of people are lacking, the realism of things. Now, if you're not someone, if someone thinks that getting married is a solution to a problem, then we have all kinds of other problems. We need a whole set of other talk shows, you know. Getting married is not a solution to any problem. And if you have issues in your relationship, you should be able to communicate it out and work it out, and then decide if you're in a position to get married. But you know, it makes no sense fooling yourself, because yes, we will have a high divorce rate later on. The divorce will come eventually.
I know we've started talking about marriage now. I mean, but I say that because I know that a lot of people just think, you know, marriage and then the wedding, that's what they want. They just want to have this wonderful wedding, and they don't think about...
But it's just for the day. The marriage is for the rest of one's life, you know, and we have to think. And I do love weddings. I think it's a happy time. There's such a beautiful thing helping someone plan or coordinate that day. But again, there has to be longevity in whatever it is. Now, you're talking about a high divorce rate. I mean, I'm really no expert in anything, but I'm a human being that lives in the world, and I think people right now are not patient. People get divorced very quickly because no one has the time to fix anything. You know, people just feel there's a problem. I've spoken to you a few times about it. It's not working out. I need to get out, you know? And I think before, look, we had arranged marriages in so many cultures before. People who never knew each other, who didn't have any of the in-love thing, you know? You didn't have to be in love. You just got married because that's what your parents wanted, you know? And they were able to make it work. These people became friends over time. You know, they became such close companions, and they made their marriage work for 50, 60 years. So I don't think that being in love is such a big factor as we make it. And even if it is, I don't think it's for the long term either, because I think realistically, the butterflies and all of these things are temporary. I think it's temporary. And I think when I'm 50 and when I'm 60 and 70 with my husband, I may just love him as the friend that I have grown so close to. I'll love him, but I don't know about these butterflies and all that. Well, I'm not 70 yet, but I'm just saying, realistically, I'm not expecting it. And that's not why I got married, you know, to feel exactly how I feel today.
You know, maybe I'm just not... I like to think that I could be a romantic, because I'm surprised that you would say that you're not expected to have the sparks. Maybe it's in a different way.
Yeah.
You're still... I think that you would still expect to have that little, you know, jump in your heart when you see him,
which I do.
That kind of thing.
After 11 years, you know, I do. I don't melt every time I see him like I did when I first met him.
You're in trouble when you get home tonight.
But you see, that's the thing.
You're in big trouble.
We have that kind of relationship, I would like to think. Husband, please call. I think we have that kind of relationship where I felt that thing where you felt, you know, the way you had to in the beginning, but 11 years later, I do watch him and I smile, or something in me gets warm and that kind of thing. And to tell you the truth, I much prefer that feeling.
Yes.
I feel a lot more secure in that feeling than I felt in the butterflies and so on that I knew was temporary. So I'm happier here now, yeah.
But, you know, what about the exchanging of the vows?
Yeah.
Can you remember that? Can you remember how it felt? Or were you aware that people were listening?
Yes. And it was such a funny thing for us because my husband has 4 names. Okay. So repeating the 4 names was crazy, and I was rolling my eyes. But I did. But it was, I have to be very honest, for me, repeating my vows was more because I was asked to repeat my vows. It was like a structured thing, you know. I didn't feel, you know, a connection to the vow because it was my own. I just felt that it was something that was part of my vows that I had to say. But I know exactly how I felt about my husband, so I was okay with that. But other people choose to write their own vows. What do you think about writing your own vows?
Well, you know me, I would very much be the one, yes, we have to do, why are we following tradition? But that's me. Let's see what you think. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. The phones are still open, so please call or send us an email with your questions or comments on our topic of something borrowed. Did you know that carrying the bride over the threshold is a superstition that began in medieval Europe, where it was believed that a bride was extra vulnerable to evil spirits through the soles of her feet? See, that's different from what you said earlier. To avoid bringing in any evil spirits, the groom carried the bride into their new home. And the one about a spider on your wedding dress? Well, apparently finding an 8-legged creature on your gown might seem like a wedding day nightmare. But English law claims that finding a spider in your wedding dress is a good omen. How on earth? I don't know that you could ever think that having a spider in your dress or finding it is good.
Maybe the spider told them. You know, a friend of mine said to me, if I found a spider in my dress, the dress would be ripped up because she's afraid of spiders.
Oh gosh, yeah.
She said there'd be no dress left.
Gosh, but you know, I do want to look at having a really wonderful wedding. You know, positivity about having your friends and your family being with you, especially if your parents are able to be there, because I think that's very important. If you are close to your family, because not everyone is close to families, but if you are close to your family, I think it's one of those days where you just want to have them around. Were your parents around and your husband's parents?
Yes, my husband's parents were around, and my dad passed away about 8 or 9 years ago. So he wasn't there, which was a big deal for me. But my grandmother was able to make it, which was even bigger, because for 8 years my husband and I were dating, and my grandmother would say to us, you know, in Creole, she'd say, you're not getting married before I die, you're not getting married before I die. And she was able to make the wedding. I was so happy. And months later she died. So I would be eternally grateful that she was there, and my husband's parents were there. But you know, it's a lovely thing. If generally a wedding brings good vibes to everybody, generally there are times people still come to see what you're wearing and talk about it the next day and stuff like that, but generally families get, you know, this closeness, and at least for the day you can eat together and dance and, you know, have a little drink and talk about what happened before and all of that. So I think there's such beautiful things that can come out of that wedding day.
Well, sometimes when you read the lists and the list of the things that cause you more stress, top of the one is not having any money, financial problems, top of the list. Second of the list is religion issues, especially if your partner, your two different religions. Another one is moving house, lots of stress, things like that. I look down the line and I don't see weddings, because I think weddings are just stressful. Even though it's happy, it's stressful, because there's so many things to do. I think until you are a bride or a groom for the first time, you don't realize all the things that are involved. So even though you might be very happy that you're going to do this, when you think of all the things that need to get done, I think that it could spoil that happiness. Maybe that's why you have your, you know, your matron of honor, your you know, your
and we live in an evolving world, and the more time goes by, the more there are things that you develop, or ideas that you get on how to make things easier. I think that's the beauty of an evolving world. And one of the things that make life easy is someone to coordinate your wedding instead of you doing it yourself. Yes, that's
big business now, isn't it? With wedding coordinators.
Yeah. So you already know what you want. You just have someone who can do it for you.
I think that's such a great idea.
Yeah. And you know, the other things, there's very little that can be done about you having to move house and all of that, because it's your life. You'll have to do it at one point or another. I think the idea is to choose the timing, you know. If you're going to move house and get married and be pregnant at the same time, it's going to be very stressful. So as much as you can plan these things, try and do it so that you remove some of the stress from you.
That's really good advice. Anything else you can tell others who are, you know, some people might have just got engaged and now they're thinking, oh gosh, you know, we're really happy, we're going to go and look for our clothing and so on. What else could you perhaps advise people?
I think one of the first things to do is, it might not be the funnest thing to do, but the first thing is to decide with you and your partner how much money you have to put into planning your wedding day. You know, how much of that money you can budget, how much of the money you have you can budget to your wedding day, because you can save yourself a lot of difficulty and stress just by deciding I have $5,000 and that's what we're going to spend, give and take $1,000 more. You know, and once you decide on that, then yes, we can encourage you to come to us, to Something Borrowed, and we can sit down and discuss with you how you can put these monies into efficient use for your wedding day. And I tell people to enjoy the engagement, because a lot of the time you're stressing out over planning the wedding that you really have no time to enjoy. Wow, that was the year that I was engaged. It's probably the most in love time for you, because that's when you feel the closest. You sit down, you can see how the two of you can plan this event together. It really is the beginning of how you're going to plan other things in your life, your family, your home, etc. So take your time, enjoy your engagement, and then together decide how you're going to plan your big day and, you know, your life together.
And where can people find you?
So we're located at Goodlands on the Mon, and persons can call in on 485-6378 to make any appointments for fittings. And we're on Facebook, Something Borrowed St. Lucia, and our website, somethingborrowedslu.com.
Okay, well, keep making people happy. Forget about me and my views. But
That's all right, but you have good views.
But I will say to you, if you have anyone who's doubting coming in, try to tell them to think, or take some time. We're not saying leave, just take some time.
Yeah, I agree, and we will. Yes.
Good, thank you. All right, well, Nurcia, it's been really nice having you here.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming to Rituals with me earlier. It was a great time.
I enjoyed it, yes.
Good, good. Well, it's actually time for us to say goodbye. So I thanked Nurcia for being with us, and I'm going to thank you for being with us too. We really appreciate that you're here with us on Choice TV. I will post the origins of the other superstitions I mentioned in the beginning of the program on the Dolor Factor Facebook page, and we look forward to you sharing yours with us there as well. And I hope by now you're kind of trying to agree with me that the ideal wedding should be just for the two of you. Don't spend good potential mortgage money on feeding the bellies of people who most probably criticize your special day. On behalf of my guest, Nurcia Paul, the Dolor Factor team, Choice TV and Caravision, before I actually say goodbye, just remember, Inside Out tomorrow, or Saturday, God willing, they're going to be with RBTT at their store with some mortgages and up to 20% off. And don't forget, for the Rotary Calabashers, the date, the Friday the 28th, it's not there anymore. So just we'll be informing you more about that. So until next time, goodbye and God bless.
The Dolor Factor is sponsored by Delia, a romantic paradise. Lime, value every moment. Illuminous, your transformation begins here. Inside Out, everything for your home, inside and out. And supported by the Cultural Development Foundation, Creativity, Culture, Community.